Welcome on into the Wednesday edition of Helping Seniors of Brevard, heard every Wednesday, 12 noon to 1 o'clock. Let's get things underway as we introduce to you Kerry Fink. Hi, Kerry. Good afternoon to you.
Hey, John Harper. It sounded like we were launching off there. That was Benny Goodman, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
Well, it's old music of your life. Get your day going.
That's
right. Welcome to the Helping Seniors of Brevard radio show. It's lunchtime. It's Wednesday. And so if you know, that's the Wednesday habit is everybody get together, hang around the radio as we have some good senior information on here on 90.3 FM WEJF. I'm Kerry Fink. And on behalf of Joe Steckler, our president and founder, and Kim Bernard, our education specialist, and the whole Helping Seniors team, welcome. We have got our expert in, or at least I call him expert in the house, but he has been a friend of Helping Seniors going back for years and years and years. Goes back with Joe back to the Brevard Alzheimer's days, and he is a great go-to guy. Whenever we have questions, we're always picking up the phone and calling to, not only is he an elder law attorney, he's board certified elder law attorney, Bill Johnson. How are you today, Bill?
Good. How are you doing, Kerry?
Good. You know, we were just talking about this before the show. I got some new numbers in that I thought we're going to talk about legislative updates today because there's a lot of stuff. And Bill, you are always our conduit into what's going on in the world of elder affairs. And you said out of some of these things we're going to talk about today, most of these are actually helpful.
Yes, I think a vast majority of these are meant to help protect seniors and have have beneficial impacts for seniors. There's one that is a little bit of a controversial one, but
yeah, I'm looking forward to us actually talking about that one as we get into it. I wanted to set the stage, if it's all right, before. I just got this new report. This is actually in from Corina Savella at Total Long-Term Care Consultant Services, who's one of the friends of the Helping Seniors information network here. And this is just released information. And if there was ever a time that the services of what Helping Seniors of Brevard does is needed, it's now. And this is an older adult population by the numbers. And so the latest report covering 2019, which was just released at the end of May, from the Administration for Community Living's Administration on Aging, which is part of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, has some staggering numbers. Listen to this. The data tells us that the 85 and over population is projected to more than double from 2018 number of 6.5 million to 14.4 million. And adults 85 and over who need help with personal care, 21% of the time. That's a bit more than 75 to 84-year-olds who need help 8% of the time. And so basically, the over 65 population now represents 16% of the population in 2018, but is expected to be 21.6% by 2040. So almost a quarter of the people living will be 65 and over in 2040. Think about that. And then they talk about us here, specifically in Florida. We had an increase in our 65 plus population of 39% between 2008 and 2018 here in Florida. The 65 plus population of Florida is 21% and growing. And Florida is in a unique position because everybody's coming here to the Sunshine State. We are in the top 5 states with such a high senior population, but unique in that most of them that come to Florida, it says, do not have a family network to support them locally. And so that puts some unique challenges for us here, Bill, right? Because not only is the population of seniors just growing, just because people are living longer, people are moving into Florida like crazy, but then the point that they're bringing up is they don't necessarily have the family resources here in Florida to help support them.
That's very true. There's a lot of people retire here, which is, a large part of the issue. But even during the COVID pandemic, a lot of people were leaving the northeastern states and coming to Florida.
Yep.
Simply because we did not have a lot of the restrictions that they did in the Northeast, mainly around the large urban centers. So a lot of people decided it's time to go, get out of the big city, get down to Florida and retire. So we had a boom that occurred during the COVID pandemic.
Yeah, and it seems to be going on. And one of the things that we talked about, the reason that there's a need for the work of helping seniors is not only now for 10 years, Joe established the County Senior Information Helpline, which has now been helping seniors in Brevard and their families, literally, for over a decade now, and helped thousands and thousands of families absolutely free of charge. We're a small Florida nonprofit organization, but have been able to help thousands and thousands of people simply because with Joe's expertise, Kim Bernard, our education specialist expertise, they sort of know who to call at the right time when a certain situation is popping up. And I'm really amazed how often we are able to make a difference, because it does matter that you know what programs are available or who to call in a certain situation. I'm thinking, Bill, as people are moving into the state, they don't have a frame of reference. They don't even know where to begin. And so the work of helping seniors just becomes that much more important. But I guess you see the same thing from your side. As an elder law attorney, people are moving down and maybe they think they have everything together from up north or something, and then they don't realize things are different here and all of that too.
Right. There's a lot of misinformation because we have such a large transient population. They assume things were like they were in their home state, and subsequently they may get caught in some bad advice, or even worse, having bad documents, that kind of thing. So they do, when you move here, you do need to go seek out an attorney and have your documents reviewed.
Yeah, I remember you were explaining in particular that, because actually you and Joe did a TV show a little while back, and I remember you called it was called like Super Power of Attorney, and you were basically explaining what I remember, and you can correct me if I get this bungled, but you were explaining to us that here in Florida you have to be very careful because you have to specifically include that power if it's to be included in the power of attorney. You can't just generally like, oh, this person can do all this stuff.
Correct. The way we interpret powers of attorney is that you specifically have to give somebody a power or they don't have it. And a lot of states allow you to do general statements like, manage my financial affairs. And statements like that in a durable power of attorney don't work in Florida. Right. Because it's not specific.
So when you come down here and you say, well, I had our family attorney up in, let's just say, Indiana do this paperwork, and now we're retiring to Florida, and they think they're all set because they had a good qualified attorney put it together, but it still needs somebody to kind of look through and make sure, because some of the stuff may or may not do the thing that you wanted it to do down here. And
that's a perfect example. Wills, trusts, powers of attorney, advance directives, those kinds of things are all creatures of state law. And so subsequently, the way they're interpreted, executed, all those kinds of things are governed by whatever state you're in.
Now, for years, we were talking about this, folks, before the show, because we have an idea from the Helping Senior side of a pretty important project that we want to do. If you've been around Joe Steckler, our president and founder, any amount of time, he's a big advocate for what he calls an aging plan. In other words, it's all our life, they ask us what our plan is, right, Bill? When we're kids, it's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? What kind of job? What do you see yourself doing? Then when we're adults, they say, well, are you, what's your plan? Are you going to send kids to college? What's your plan if you're going to retire? Or how are you going to work all this stuff? And then when we get to our senior years, they say, well, do we have a plan? And oftentimes we think, well, that just means, yeah, I save for retirement or whatever I did about that. But what Joe is really talking about is much like we prepare hurricane plans here in Florida, hoping a storm is never going to come, but we still should have our batteries and our water and all those things they did tell us to do. You need an aging plan to deal with the storms that hopefully never come, but might come. And that's one of the things that I remember when I first met you, Bill, you were publishing a book that I remember called The Orange Book, but now you publish it inside this thing called the Boomer Guide. And it really is an excellent first step when you're trying to sit down and figure like a road to all this stuff, right?
Yes. Well, we call it the Florida Long-Term Care and Nursing Home Answer Book. And so we only specifically deal with that segment of what we're talking about. But there are a lot of other segments that come in when you're talking about an aging plan. And Money Magazine they do a survey. I think they do it every year where they go out and ask retirees, what's your biggest concerns? And usually, 1 and 2 are outliving our money.
Sure.
And number 2 is maintaining the same quality of life we had when we were working. And, way down the list, I always talk about this, way down the list was a long-term care event, and all the other things we talk about, like, estate planning, incapacity planning, all those things are, people just don't think about those things. So when you're talking about an aging plan, well, not only do you need to look at what financially is going on, but you also have to look at what medically is going on, right, what legally is going on, and get all those bases covered. And, medically, you need to have insurance, maybe long-term care insurance too. You have to look at, are you going to be on Medicare Part B? Are you going to have a supplemental plan? Or are you going to go into one of these Advantage plans? What's the benefits of doing that? Are you going to do a prepaid funeral or burial contract with a funeral home and take care of that ahead of time? You got to do your will and or have a trust. You have to do your incapacity documents like power of attorney, healthcare certificate, living will. Some people even go so far as to write their own obituaries ahead of time. So there's a lot of things that interplay as you age.
Yeah. And, I keep saying one of the lines that I often find myself jumping back on is that aging seems to be an on-the-job experience, right? Because you're never really sure until you're getting there. And I've heard Joe say many times, Kerry, getting old is tough. And so I think anything that might help you along the way is probably going to be beneficial. And yet for the most of us, because it's on-the-job training, we're not well prepared at all unless we sit down and take advantage of some of the things that are readily available. The biggest, I guess I would call it one of the tragedies that I think I hear stories about, and Bill, you could probably talk this over and over, is what I would call the guardianship that comes into place simply because nobody put the right piece of paperwork ahead of time before there was something transpired.
Yeah, and I think we should back up. Guardianship's where you go to court and have somebody legally declared incapacitated, and then all their rights are taken from that person and placed with a guardian. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily all of them all the time, but sometimes you have a partial guardianship. But whatever rights the court decides are placed with the guardian, then the guardian exercises it. And the worst kind of scenario for that is when we have somebody who didn't do a power of attorney, didn't do an advanced healthcare directive, and all of a sudden they have a stroke or something like that, and there's no documents to give anybody the authority to get into their 401k so that we can pay for the costs of care. Yeah. And then we're stuck doing this guardianship, which costs around $10,000.
Wow.
Just for a bare bones, uncontested guardianship, which could easily be avoided with, a $250 power of attorney.
Yeah, unbelievable. And the problem is it's the stuff we don't know that really could hurt us in this.
Correct. And, I always like to say this is the kind of stuff that your parents never sat you down on their knee and told you about.
True.
They told you about how to get through early life. Generally, they don't have any words of wisdom for later life on the things that you may fall into.
Well, and also, do you find a lot, Bill, that it may be the concerned youngsters of aging parents who are oftentimes calling you and saying, I'm not sure if mom and dad have all this together. What do we need to do?
We get that all the time. Yeah, we get that all the time, where it's actually the kids who are more concerned about what's going on with mom and dad and want to make sure that they have all the bases covered in case mom or dad get ill.
Yeah, well, all of this makes sense. And I know, again, we're speaking with board-certified elder law attorney Bill Johnson, who, like I said, has been a friend of Helping Seniors since before there was a Helping Seniors, and actually goes way back before that, helping Joe as he was getting everything going with the Brevard Alzheimer's and getting those Joe's clubs established and all that. But the thing that we really want to kind of zoom in on today, we were talking about, because you keep your ear really close to the ground, and people are oftentimes asking you keep us updated on what's going on legislatively. And again, as we were talking about this plethora of bills that have come out of Tallahassee, most of them appear to be helpful.
That is true. There's, hundreds of bills that come out of Tallahassee, and I think there are thousands that are proposed each year, but most of them die before making it through committee, or they don't have a companion bill in the other chamber. So if you only have one bill in the House and there's not a companion bill in the Senate, your odds of it becoming a law are pretty slim. But yeah, every year we pass quite a few, maybe 100, 200 laws out of those 1,400 bills. And this year's no different. There is a great, if you go to the Florida Senate webpage, there is a way you can click and get a summary of each and every bill that is up for the governor's signature. Okay. And I should say, most of the bills we talk about today are being sent to the governor as we're speaking, because we had an extended legislative session to deal with the gambling issue. So that was kind of tacked on at the end, and subsequently, technically, the legislative session didn't end because we tacked on this gambling issue. And then the bills are just now being sent up to the governor for the governor's signature. Okay.
So as we talk about these, I think we have 4 or 5 that you brought today that we're going to talk a little bit about. So are these then likely to become law? Is that the point?
Yes, and I think most of the ones we'll talk about passed resoundingly, and there was not much controversy with them. And the only one that had a little controversy has already been signed into law.
Oh, okay.
The governor did sign that one.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts actually about that one, because that has to do with COVID protections, right? And what's permissible in the what's permissible then in assisted livings or nursing home facilities and things like that, right?
Correct.
Good. Well, you walk us through. You know where we should start. And I was reading one here that says protection of elderly persons and disabled adults. I think we'd all be, at least on the surface, familiar and appreciative of something like that.
Yeah, and what this bill does is it creates quite a few different categories of crimes against seniors, and it also creates repercussions if you are the perpetrator. Mm-hmm. So if you have committed abuse, neglect, exploitation, or aggravated manslaughter against a elderly or, I should mention, disabled adult,
right?
You are barred from serving as the executor of that person's estate, and you also may be barred from inheriting from that person's estate.
Wow.
So there are, and that includes life insurance, contractual arrangements, joint tenant survivorship rights, or just being named as a beneficiary on a bank account or in a will or trust. So, and it doesn't matter if it occurred in Florida or outside of Florida. So that's new. If you're the victim and you still want to leave something to somebody who did all that to you, there is a way to do it. You could reaffirm that you want to leave something even after the facts.
So in a lot of cases, this sounds, from how you're describing it, this sounds like something that is at least trying to maybe protect a person from other family members?
Correct. What we're trying to do is disincentivize people from abusing, neglecting, exploiting, or physically harming the elderly, and then, profiting from it on the backside by inheriting assets from the same person they victimized. And this bill came from the office of the Attorney General.
Oh, wow.
So that's who and it was sponsored by Representative Burton and Senator Burgess.
Wow. So we're going to have a significant series of these to talk about, but that's one that deals, it sounds like, with protection of elderly persons and disabled adults. Seems like that's a plus, but we're about down to our mid-show break. We're talking with board-certified elder law attorney Bill Johnson. Before we get to break, real quick, people have questions about things they're talking about, or maybe we sparked them that they need to get some paperwork checked out. How do they get in touch with you?
They can reach us at the office at 321-253-1667.
Great. And we'll be right back with the second half of the Helping Senior Show and some big updates about the cruise, the car raffle, and legislative updates with our expert in-house, at least I call him our expert, Bill Johnson.
12:32 now in the afternoon as we continue with Helping Seniors of Brevard, and we'll get back to more of the show. Here's Kerry Fink.
Thank you, John Harper. Yes, welcome back to the second half of Helping Seniors Radio. It's a Wednesday fixture right here at 90.3 FM, WEJF. Lots of people also tune us in online at WEJF.net. And so if you were here for the first half of the show, our guest in-house. I always think of that thing, if you remember Peanuts. Remember there was it Lucy that had the psychiatrist is in little stand, and in this case it's actually board certified elder law attorney Bill Johnson who's in. And even during the break I was getting a real education in kind of our state's legislative process, because we started this conversation about bills and how they work. And you were explaining like that the people who are representatives are only allowed to get involved and sponsor, you said, what is it, 6 bills per session or something like that?
It's either 4 or 6, something like that.
But senators can get involved with as many as they deem appropriate. And it really, that to me kind of like opened an insight into kind of this whole process when people are trying to get these things done. So when we sit down and we've been talking during the first half about a new law, or I guess a new regulation that's trying to help protect elderly persons and disabled adults, there's quite a process that goes into each one of these things.
There is, and they have to go through the committees and get assigned to committees, and yeah, there's quite a journey for any bill.
It's an amazing thing. If you're old enough, you remember a thing that they used to call Schoolhouse Rock, and they did this thing about I'm a bill and I'm on Capitol Hill, and they were trying to explain to kids a little bit this whole process. But it is fascinating when you start to look at this, how much is involved. So before we dive right back into that, I want to just set it up a little bit with background. So Bill Johnson, elder law attorney, has been friends with the Helping Seniors Network since Joe established it, going way back 10 years ago now. And even before that, you were instrumental in helping Joe in a lot of the things that he was working to accomplish when he was getting Brevard Alzheimer's going and the Joe's Clubs and all of that. So you have certainly been involved with senior issues for quite some time.
For a long, long time, yes.
And I was thinking, even in our history as helping seniors, one of the things I always remind folks is, as we're talking about things, we have a huge archive. You can go to helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. That's our website, helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. And all the TV shows, radio shows, articles, things like that are all available for your review. So you can go to like the search bar and say, okay, I want to hear about, I don't know, power of attorney. And it will pull up articles and things like that. If you like YouTube, there's a whole YouTube channel devoted to Helping Seniors of Brevard. And there's a Facebook page devoted to Helping Seniors of Brevard. And all those also are stocked with these videos, the TV programs that we air, the radio programs that we do, and things like that. And I was thinking, Bill, you and Joe have done dozens of these over the years, and you've really covered so many topics that it by itself is kind of a good primer for people to go back and start checking out some of that.
It is true. We've done a lot. I just had a client in my office who said that, before she came in, she researched everything. And I thought she was going to say the internet. She said, no, on YouTube. And she watched all these different YouTube videos. And she said, the reason I'm here, there's some conflicting information out there. And, I guess she wasn't sure if it was Florida specific. But she came in, good. Loaded for bear with questions. So it was good.
As a conversation we've also had, it's like, I think probably one of your worst nightmares is the person that walks in and says, I had all these documents done because I picked these forms up at the office supply store.
That's usually one of our biggest nightmares.
But I was going to say, you too also have a lot of good resources on your own law firm's website, which I believe is
FloridaElderLaw.net.
FloridaElderLaw.net. And there's a lot of information. And again, if you're hearing stuff that maybe piques a question, you probably want to give Bill's office a call. And that number is
321-253-1667.
So we're going to continue a little bit on our conversation about these bills and things. I did want to take a moment towards the end of the show, bring you up to speed. We got some neat things to talk about. We're going to be talking about the Helping Seniors of Brevard Travel Club Cruise, which is a go, October 17th from Port Canaveral. We're also going to have some updates for you on the Helping Seniors car raffle and our Make Good date. So you'll want to stick around for that. But Bill, let's go ahead and jump right back into anything you care to help share about some of these new things that seem to be, for the most part, helpful on behalf of seniors.
Yes, back to the protection of elderly persons and disabled adults, which was House Bill 1041. I just wanted to add a few more things with that discussion. The bill also makes it a crime for somebody to knowingly, intentionally modify, alter somebody's planned distribution of assets in a will, trust, or other testamentary document, unless they first obtain a court order or they have the elderly or disabled person signs a statement to that effect, or they are an agent under a power of attorney that gives them the authority to make that change. Other than that, so if you had power of attorney and you went in and took all of mom's money out of her account that was payable on death to your sister and you put it somewhere else, you now have committed a crime in Florida.
Wow.
Well, I should say as soon as this passes, it gets signed by the governor.
Right.
Also, and I'm just hitting some of the highlights. I'm not getting into each and everything. But if you isolate an elderly or disabled person from his or her family members, which can reasonably be expected to result in physical or psychological injury to that person, and with the intent to promote, facilitate, conceal, or disguise some form of criminal activity, you can be guilty of a crime. So a lot of times we have mom and dad living with one kid who doesn't get along with the other kid, and the one kid where mom and dad are living has power of attorney, and they're funneling assets off of mom and dad's account. And then the other child tries to go visit, and they bar him from visiting. Well, that isolation can now be a crime. I don't want to get too much more into that, but that passed the Senate 39-0 and the House 117-0.
That's so pretty universal, unanimously, right?
Yeah, you can be pretty sure that's going to be signed into law. Yeah. We also have an elder-focused dispute resolution process. A lot of times when we're doing guardianship, one of the problems we have is mom and dad get ill, and then the kids decide to fight it out in guardianship court, really because they haven't gotten along for 40 years. And now they see that as the proper forum to go fight about this. So what this allows is that there can be a court-appointed elder caring coordinator to assist in resolving disputes regarding the elder's safety and autonomy, and bring everybody kind of into like a mediation kind of thing. So that is a process now. Maybe we can resolve some of these issues without having the court involved. I'm going to move on to the attorney compensation bill. When an attorney does a probate or a trust administration, now there is some language they have to tell the client. And basically the gist of it is that the fee that is charged by the attorney is up to negotiation between the client and the attorney. It does not necessarily have to be set based on a percentage of what's in the estate. That disclosure must go into the agreement, retainer agreement. And if you don't have that in the retainer agreement and the attorney wants to get paid, then they would have to go get a court order.
Right.
So, and then that's when a lot of other things would have to come. And also you do have a right to see what they did for the money, either a billing statement or a list of the services they rendered if they're billing on a percentage basis. There was a bill that modified, and by the way, that one passed 39-0 and 113-1 in the House. There was a bill to fix the electronic legal documents. It looked like when you electronically notarized for somebody, the witnesses had to prove who they were to the notary, but the person signing the document did not.
Oh, whoops.
So, whoops. And so this was a kind of a glitch bill to fix that. And that passed the Senate 40-0 and 118-0. And then the last one is the one I thought was a little controversial. It's the civil liability for damages relating to COVID-19. This passed the Senate 24-15 and the House 83-31. As I mentioned, this was signed by the governor back on March 29th, 2021. So it is now the law. But basically, it says you cannot sue a health provider for COVID-19 related claims. And so this gives immunity basically to the hospital, nursing home, assisted living, home health care folks. And you have to basically say that whatever that is, whatever you're suing about with reasonable certainty did not occur as a result of COVID-19. Now, the problem with that is the way you define related to COVID-19.
Yeah, I would think.
As me and you were talking about during the break, Kerry, that, a lot of times because family couldn't visit people in facilities, and because facilities were short-staffed, the amount of care people were getting was not or was substandard. And there have been, bed sores and other bad outcomes, injuries and whatnot. Now, will this law allow you to file a suit for those bad acts? Or could they argue that, hey, we were short-staffed because of COVID and get immunity from liability? So we'll have to see how that plays out. I haven't had a chance to talk to any personal injury attorneys on whether or not they've seen this make a difference. But it clearly, if you're suing over somebody catching COVID in a facility and related medical problems from that, you are out of luck because they have now granted immunity to those healthcare facilities.
Yeah, so the question is really more, like you said, about those cases that end up being related that I guess, like you said, they come up not because of COVID directly, but they come up indirectly because people aren't having access to a facility to see what's going on, and maybe there was some neglect or something going on. And,
you look at is it the proximate cause kind of
right.
thing? How closely can you tie this to being a COVID problem?
Right.
Such that it gets you immunity.
So this is one of those that probably makes things a little grayer before it's clearer, huh?
Yeah, we by that I mean the elder law section. We didn't necessarily like the definition, but this bill was passing. There was no way that this was going to be slowed down. There were a lot of people lobbying, as you can imagine.
Right.
All the big healthcare related organizations were putting their lobbyist muscle behind getting this thing passed.
And all that stuff is complicated because I guess, like you said, you end up probably having to backtrack and then look at maybe some things as they get a little bit more experience. Just like you were sharing with that one bill about the electronic notary, where you say, well, we got to get witness. We have to prove who our witnesses are, but didn't necessarily require the actual person signing to do their paperwork or to present who they were.
And sometimes you don't learn. I mean, obviously, everybody goes through these bills with a pretty much fine-tooth comb, and they go off. They go off to bill drafting, which is a function of the legislature, because they want to make sure it is put in a form that easily relates to the existing statutes.
Right.
So it does go through a formal process, but even with lots of people's eyes on it, a lot of times you just don't see the whole picture.
Well, but for the most part, you feel fairly comfortable that most of this advances the cause for seniors, which is probably the important part.
Correct.
And that's one of the things we keep talking about as we open up the show, and I was sharing those statistics that had just come out. I remember years ago when we had a radio network called The Music of Your Life, and ironically, we were dealing with seniors, and we would go talk to Madison Avenue ad agencies who actually had a real legitimate age bias. They said, no, we buy 18 to 49. We don't care about anybody over 50. And they would actually tell us this as we sat down in their nice offices in Manhattan. And one of the things that we thought was interesting about that whole discussion was when they didn't acknowledge the value of the seniors specifically, it was kind of like they were writing them off, and we ended up having, in that role as Music of Your Life, we would end up talking about the values of that seniors would have because they represented a unique marketing target. And oftentimes, quite frankly, if you're advertising to an 18-year-old, you may be negative advertising to a 65-year-old because they don't get the commercial, or perhaps are even offended by it. You never know. But the point of what I was wanting to get at, with this is, as people are moving like crazy into Florida and the population just keeps growing. Back in those days, we would tell an advertising agency, did you know in 1900, statistically, if you were 50, you were dead? And so this was 20 years ago, Bill. We would educate advertising agencies and tell them that this was 20 years ago. We said if you turn 65 today, your average life expectancy is another 17 years. And so what we made the argument 20 years ago was that 85 plus was the fastest growing demographic by percentage, because there simply weren't 85 pluses before. And now I remember having conversations with people who are involved in assisted living, and they're talking about working with seniors who are in their upper 90s and early hundreds, and they're doing just fine.
Right.
And so
I've met people over 100 who are sharp as can be.
Yeah, and so the issue about what you do with elder law just becomes more and more important, because all these issues are affecting a greater and greater percentage of population. They told us in that report that 21% of Florida, I think they said, was over 65, but we did some new math that we were looking at yesterday. It said here in Brevard County, 1 in 3 are over 60, and even if you want to go back to AARP definition, 50 plus, 1 in 2 of us here in Brevard County are would be considered a senior. It's really incredible.
Yeah, on a per capita basis, we have one of the largest senior populations.
Yeah.
Not by sheer numbers, but, of all the counties in Florida, we do have a very significant elderly population.
And that's why it's so important. Maybe you had things, because I think even when you were telling me about the big changes in power of attorney, you said that came in 8 or 10 years ago when they shifted that whole thing here in Florida?
Yeah, 10 years ago, 2011.
So even if you had documents done 15, 20 years ago here in Florida, they might be a reason to really have everything reviewed. And certainly if you just moved in from out of state and you're coming in with documents that you think set you up the right way.
I hate to say this, but even if you had documents done yesterday by some attorneys, you better make sure that who you're going to knows what they're doing, because I still see documents done by attorneys in this county that have not updated their forms since the 90s. And I am just flabbergasted by that. And we don't just sit there and go, oh, well, so-and-so doesn't know what they're doing. We actually pick up the phone and we call those law offices and tell them, hey, stop it.
Yeah.
There a lot has changed in this. You can't just simply use this old form that you've had on your computer for 20 years.
Well, it's like going to the wrong specialist for the wrong thing. Maybe this person is an expert in one type of law, but unless they specialize in knowing what's going on with an ear to the ground, like you really have been educating us throughout this program about things that are coming down the pike. But I guess it's like you have to stay on it almost minute by minute.
You do.
So again, if you want to, I want to point you at a couple of resources if you're listening and enjoying this conversation. The Helping Seniors of Brevard.org website is a great place to go because so much of the educational information that you've done, Bill Johnson, elder law attorney, over the years, there's TV shows, radio shows, articles in our Helping Seniors newsletter. All those are archived there, same as on our YouTube, same as on our Facebook, but it's a great place to start. And then when we were talking also at the bottom of the hour, you can go directly to your website because you've got some good resources, floridaelderlaw.net.
Correct.
And probably the best idea is just give your office, because you'll sit down and talk with somebody about their situation at no charge for that first.
Well, I hate to say this too, but we've had to change our policy on that. I had quite a few people who were just abusing that system.
Aha. So how does it work now?
So we charge for a consultation. We have two different prices depending on whether you want to see me or my daughter, who is also an attorney with the firm. If you go to one of our seminars, however, you can get a free consultation.
Aha.
So
I see.
That's the key. Go to the seminar, learn something, and then you can get a free consultation.
So how do people find out about the seminars? Do they call your office?
We advertise them. They're advertised under One Senior Place, which is in Senior Scene magazine, I believe, and Senior Life. Both have advertisements for their end, as well as the seminar schedules. Okay,
so one more time before we shift gears and talk car raffle and cruise, best number to reach your office?
321-253-1667.
That's Bill Johnson, elder law board certified elder law attorney, longtime friend of Helping Seniors. So in the couple of minutes we got left, I want to bring you up to speed real quickly on a couple of things. We have the Helping Seniors car raffle. I'm glad this is radio and not TV. We have the Helping Seniors car raffle coming up October 9th, and that is going to be our big day, or big evening, I would say, at the American Muscle Car Museum. But you got to be in it to win it. Bill, do you have a favorite car in this race? You remember the winner gets to pick if they want a 2021 Chevrolet Camaro, 2021 Dodge Challenger, a brand new 2021 Kia Sportage, or a 2021 Mazda Miata.
I think it would have to be the Dodge Challenger.
Yeah, that's a definite popular one. In 2019, our winner chose that car. Last year, Troy Darling of Indy Atlantic chose the Camaro. So it'll be fun to see what gets picked this time, but we're going to find out Saturday, October 9th. Your ticket, one ticket for $25, $5 for a $100 donation, gets you actually into the museum that night. And so you'll be part of the big festivities. You don't have to be present to win, but if you're in town, you absolutely do want to be there and enjoy all the fun that goes on there, see all those beautiful cars that Mike Pylock has assembled there, and you might even be driving home with your own new car that night. So you can get your tickets at Helping Seniors Car Raffle.com is the easiest way to get there. Helping Seniors Car Raffle.com. You can call Kim in the office, 321-473-7770. 321-473-7770. And for those of you that got tickets last year for 2020, we have a date for you. It's Sunday. It's September 12th, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. We're actually going to gather out of the museum and your 2020 car raffle ticket. That's our make good date, so that if you since we weren't able to invite the public into the museum when we did the drawing last October, this is the make good date. So this is going to be a lot of fun. And by the way, time is running out. If you're going to join us on the Helping Seniors Travel Club cruise, you need to go to helpingseniourstravelclub.com, because when you buy that inside cabin, Chris is going to get you upgraded to a balcony cabin. So it's a terrific, terrific deal. You'll be sailing with friends here in Brevard County, right out of Port Canaveral on the luxurious MSC Divina. So lots of good things to look forward to this year in 2021. Thank you, Bill Johnson, for great information as always. And we'll look forward to seeing you next week right back here. On behalf of Joe Steckler, President and Founder, Kim Bernard, Education Specialist, we'll see you back here for Helping Seniors Radio.